Hey everybody, I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards, fire up your fingers, and come join the conversation. Hey, I'm used to looking for my camera over there. I changed things around on me. Hey, everybody, I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching The Right of the People. It is Friday, June 12th, 2020. Welcome to the conversation. I would like to say hello to my wonderful and most esteemed panel. Very distinguished gentlemen here. We have roll call 219, fresh from having his internet blown down into the basement. How are you, sir?
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Always welcome, brother. Next, we have the one who lives behind enemy lines, the tactical pickle himself, Calaveras 32 Special. How you doing, sir?
Pretty good. Every time you say esteemed panel, I'm waiting for it to be steaming panel, but hey.
Well, maybe I'm just using a euphemism. Speaking of euphemisms, we have the irascible yet lovable Squibload. How are you, sir?
Hey.
Hey. He turned into Buckley from King of the Hill. Hey. Out there in the chat, let's see, who do we have so far? We have Midnight Range, John Brown Productions, Green Badger Outdoors, Warsaw Patriot. Yeah, I got it, but I don't know that I'm using it at this time. That may end up being something on its own. Because I got a lot of other stuff to talk about tonight. If you're out there damn it, my reflexes are all screwed up. I keep wanting to look up there. If you're out there in the chat tonight and aren't sounding off, well, I can't say hi to you because I don't know if you're there or not. So say something. Remember, folks, this is a two-way street. This is not radio or television or a podcast where I just talk to you. You're part of the conversation. That's one of the things I absolutely love about this platform and doing this live stream thing on YouTube, because we can have this interaction. So let's interact. And Gabriel's out there, J Monty 1738. Hello, J Monty. I think I've seen you around here before. Welcome, if I haven't. Brett G says, Olaf from South Texas. Well, Olaf from Northeast Ohio. Glad to see you. I know I haven't seen your name out here. So for those of you who may be new to the show, this is On the Right of the People. As I like to say, we use the first to defend the second. We talk about Second Amendment related news, current events, politics, whatever happens to be going on within that genre at the moment. I try to keep things at a family-friendly PG-13 at the most, although once in a while I will maybe get a little bit wound up and drop an F-bomb or two or three, or, I try not to do that, though. So please be mindful of that out there in the chat, and my mods will definitely handle that stuff. Those are the guys with the blue wrenches, and they're pretty well on that. So if one of them asks you to kind of tone it down, please tone it down. Otherwise, timeouts and bans and all kinds of stuff happen. And we don't want that, because then you can't be part of the conversation, right? Who else do we have showing up? We have the gun-toting pacifist in the house, Jason Stewart out there. New York Outcast. How you doing, Rob? Says, hello, people. Can't chat for a minute. I'm in the middle of cleaning a gun. Welcome, Jay Monty. What's cleaning, man? Like to say thank you to everybody that thumbed this up, and like to say thank you to the two savages that thumbed this down. Engagement, and I thank you for it. Midnight Range asked if someone said wound up. Yes. I know. And matter of fact, talking about sometimes being a bit wound up, I am the first I have the dubious distinction of being the first wound up sumbitch of the week over on Midnight Ranges chat, the closer on Sunday nights. If you want to have a long, drawn out talk about anything and everything, yeah, go check that one out. It's usually a pretty good show, but anymore it's up past my bedtime or I'm at work. So yeah. Grandpa Do, hey, good evening. I don't think I've ever seen you in here, so welcome to the show. Hopefully you stick around, like what you saw, and be part of the conversation. Speaking of the conversation, we got a lot of things to talk about. I'm sure if you have been paying any attention to the news or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or whatnot, you know that some leftists in I almost said Cincinnati, in Seattle, seized about 6 blocks worth of territory, calling it I call it Antifastan. I saw that name earlier today, and I just thought it was wonderful. But they call it the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, or CHAZ for short. They have, the police abandoned the area, and they filled the vacuum because nature does abhor a vacuum, and something always fills it. Well, there are some conflicting reports about what's going on in there, and we'll talk about that. On the one side, we have reports from news organs saying that there's extortion going on, and there's a warlord who's cropped up, and then the wonderful gun tuber, the Yankee Marshal, actually went there and did a live stream for about 20 minutes, and it shows kind of a different picture. We'll look at all of that tonight, and then we have some other stuff to talk about. Let's see what else is in my topics. Let's see. We've got the Antifastan. We're going to talk about that. We have some police officers across the country getting in a little bit of trouble over Facebook posts and social media posts and pictures and whatnot. Then we have the usual suspects already trying to take what happened with George Floyd, which didn't involve a firearm in any way, shape, or form other than the cops that were there had them, and turn it into an excuse for gun control. Then we have a couple what look to be bright spots in the Second Amendment community. First off, in Connecticut, the federal court rules that they cannot suspend the gun permit process during this emergency. And in Ohio, they're considering stand your ground legislation again, and it seems to be like it's moving forward. But of course, the opponents, Democrats, are calling it racist. Also, Freedom Week is being used as a defense for a man facing charges for having a 15-round capacity magazine in the wonderful state of California. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's get to it after I go back out here to the chat and see if I can see anyone else. Robert Moore's out there. Welcome. Brett G says it's Chazistan. I actually like that. That's good too. 402 Outdoorsman's in the house. 2 Live Move. Patriot in the Dark. Gabe Stark. Hello to everybody. So let's get to this. As Robski says, enough with the bullshit talk. Anarchy in Seattle. This is a piece in cityjournal.org. Seattle's hard-left secessionist movement has claimed its first territory, 6 blocks in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. For the past week, Black Lives Matter and Antifa-affiliated activists have engaged in a pitched battle with Seattle police officers and National Guard soldiers in the neighborhood, with the heaviest conflict occurring at the intersection of 11th and Pike, where law enforcement had constructed a barricade to defend the Seattle Police East Precinct building. Hoping to break through the barricade, protesters attacked officers with bricks, bottles, rocks, and improvised explosive devices, sending some officers to the hospital. At the same time, activists circulated videos of the conflict and accused the police of brutality, demanding that the city cease using tear gas and other anti-riot techniques. Excuse me, please. That's what I give for drinking a carbonated beverage. Then, in a stunning turn of events, the city of Seattle made the decision to abandon the East Precinct and surrender the neighborhood to the protesters. This is an exercise in trust and de-escalation, explained Chief Carmen Best. Officers and National Guardsmen emptied out the facility, boarded it up, and retreated. Immediately afterward, Black Lives Matter protesters, Antifa black shirts, and armed members of the hard-left John Brown Gun Club seized control of the neighborhood, moved the barricades into a defensive position, and declared it the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, even putting up a cardboard sign at the barricades declaring, "You are now leaving the USA." On the new rebel state's first night, the atmosphere was festive and triumphant. Hooded men spray-painted the police station with slogans and anarchist symbols, renaming it the Seattle People's Department East Precinct. Raz Simone, a local rapper with an AK-47 slung from his shoulder and a pistol attached to his hip, screamed, "This is war," into a white and red megaphone and instructed armed paramilitaries to guard the barricades in shifts. Later in the night, Simone was filmed allegedly assaulting multiple protesters who disobeyed his orders, informing them that he was the police now, sparking fears that he was becoming the de facto warlord of the autonomous zone. A homeless man with a baseball bat wandered along the borderline, and two unofficial medics in medieval-style chainmail stood ready for action. Nikita Oliver, a radical activist and former mayoral candidate, emerged as a critical voice of the protest movement and assumed a leadership role in the newly declared autonomous zone. After night fell and a light rain began falling, she spoke to the crowd and outlined the ideological commitments behind the occupation. "We need to align ourselves with the global struggle that acknowledges that the United States plays a role in racialized capitalism," she told protesters. "Racialized capitalism is built upon patriarchy, white supremacy, and classism." The following day, a coalition of black activists associated with the autonomous zone released a more specific list of demands, including the total abolition of the Seattle Police Department, the retrial of all racial minorities serving prison time for violent crimes, and the replacement of the police with autonomous, restorative/transformative accountability programs. Activists pledged to maintain control of the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone until their demands are met, setting the stage for a long-term occupation and the establishment of a parallel political authority. I think I really need to get a teleprompter, dang it. But that's beside the point. The city government has not developed a strategic response to the takeover of Capitol Hill. According to one Seattle police officer with the knowledge of internal deliberations, the city's leadership is in chaos, and the mayor has made the decision to let a mob of 1,000 people dictate public safety policy for a city of 750,000. The officer said that Chief Best had dispatched high-ranking police officials to the autonomous zone to establish a line of communication. You know what I didn't? Did I go into topics? Why is this? Oh, you know what? Got the wrong doggone. Excuse me while I fix the little technical diddly. There we go. You guys should be seeing this. Hey, it was a long day at work is my only excuse, folks. My bad. Autonomous zone until their demands are met, setting the stage for a long-term occupation and the establishment of a parallel political authority. The city government has not developed a strategic response to the takeover of Capitol Hill. According to one Seattle police officer with knowledge of internal deliberations, the city's leadership is in chaos, etc., etc. City of 750,000, yeah. The officer said that Chief Best had dispatched high-ranking police officials to the autonomous zone to establish a line of communication, but the officials were immediately sent away by armed paramilitaries at the barricades. The tide of public opinion is on the side of the activists, and they're pushing the envelope as far as they can, said the officer. It's not hyperbolic to say the end game is anarchy. Politically, the Seattle City Council has already begun to champion the protesters' demands. Socialist Alternative Councilwoman Kashama Sawant, I apologize if I butchered that name. Trust me, I know what it's like to have one's name butchered and don't like it, so I try to get that right. But if I failed, I apologize. Kashama Sawant declared the takeover a victory against the militarized police force of the political establishment and the capitalist state. 3 council members have signaled support for a 50% reduction in the police budget, with additional council members likely to support a similar policy in the coming weeks. Sawant also opened Seattle City Hall, which had been closed by the mayor, to protesters, who immediately occupied the building. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone has set a dangerous precedent. Armed left-wing activists have asserted their dominance of the streets and established an alternative political authority over a large section of a neighborhood. They have claimed de facto police power over thousands of residents and dozens of businesses, completely outside the democratic process. In a matter of days, Antifa-affiliated paramilitaries have created a hardened border, established a rudimentary form of government based on principles of intersectional representation, and forcibly removed unfriendly media from the territory. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone is an occupation and taking of hostages. None of the neighborhood's residents voted for Antifa as their representative government. Rather than enforce the law, Seattle's progressive political class capitulated to the mob and will likely make massive concessions over the next few months. This will embolden the Antifa coalition and further undermine the rule of law in American cities. That was a bit of a read there. So far, are you guys noticing something that I'm noticing in here? Are you noticing all of the outright communist jargon that is contained in the statements they're making? They're using the communist tool of divide and conquer. They're trying to pit class against class, race against race, haves against have-nots, the evils of capitalism and whatnot. Am I crazy in saying this, or is this something that's evident to the rest of you as well?
Absolutely evident. And, kind of a sidebar, but that's where, what do you think would happen if people on the other side of the political spectrum tried something similar? I don't think it would, you'd get so much capitulation.
Well, I have been involved in online discussions where people have pointed out the other BLM incident, but we're not talking about Black Lives Matter. We're talking about the Bureau of Land Management, where the Bundys seized a piece of federal land and occupied a building on that federal land during the that whole thing. And the statement was made that if you were silent about that, but you're crying about this, it's not the fact that someone seized land, it's the fact that who seized land that has you bothered. Now, the implication being that a bunch of right-wing white guys seize land and everybody thinks it's okay. Those of us on our side thinks it's okay, and a bunch of Black Lives Matter protesters seize land and we think it's horrible. I say this. To me, the one was not about, it's not about the race of the people involved. It's about the ideology of the people involved. That makes it different to me. I mean, these are freaking communists. And, last I checked, communists were the enemy. But maybe I'm just an old guy, a Gen Xer who grew up in the time when, Soviet Union was the evil empire and they were the enemy that we all did duck and cover drills under our desks in early school and had freaking fallout shelters in the basement of our school growing up and whatnot. So I don't know. Maybe I'm off there.
Speak for yourself. The Bundy thing was criminal.
Well, and there we go. Squibb is a man of principle who says bad is bad, don't matter who does it. Good for you, sir.
Well, that's where there was 2 Bundy incidents that I'm familiar with. One was out in, I think it was Nevada desert. The other one was when they, held a ranger station or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know enough about the one where out in the Nevada desert to really speak intelligently about it. But the one where they took control of the other building, there, I think that was in Oregon or something.
Yeah, that one I think was crap and garbage and should have never happened. The one about the grazing rights for the cattle, I can understand their point on that one.
Yeah, that's right. They committed a crime there too.
yes, they committed a crime, but I can see the reason behind it on that one.
Yeah,
That's
the
why I
reason.
was specifying that I don't know enough about the grazing rights one to speak. But that's the one where they in Oregon where they seized the building. To me, is no different than what's going on in Seattle.
Let's see you out in the chat. Chris Fulmer says they'll be squashed soon enough. Wait and see. The same would happen to the right if they did this too, even though I would like to think they'd go into it a little more organized. Well, there was squashing that happened at the second incident, the one that happened in Oregon. That was when
The Oregon one, they gave everybody who wanted to leave peacefully the opportunity to leave peacefully, and people left peacefully.
and then one of them was killed after they left.
Well, those are the hardcore holdouts. But what I'm saying is, never mind.
No, it's okay, dude. I want discussion. I want differing opinions. I want differing views on anything that we discuss here, because I do not want to be in an echo chamber. Don't ever hesitate to challenge a statement that I make. Shit, I ain't gonna be offended. I want discussion. It's only through discussion that we examine our thoughts, our feelings, and our views, and maybe learn something. If all we hear is yep, 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 don't nobody learn shit. So please, Squib, expand upon your thought if you wish to do so. You ain't gonna make me mad.
Look, sometimes laws are broken or bent, or boundaries are pushed because we're pushing back against people that are trying to squash our constitutional rights, the things that make us uniquely American, the things that make this country so great. And then the rest of the time, it's just a bunch of thugs. And when you're a bunch of thugs, you deserve whatever you get. And I understand some people think, well, violence will get attention. Violence will get change. Not always. Not always. And my business used to be war, so I know all about violence to enact change, okay? But there's a right way to go about things and make it where you're on the right side and you affected change and the change lasts. And then there's the wrong way to go about it and you're not going to affect any change and you're just going to prolong the issue. And when people act like thugs, whether they loot or take over part of a city or have their cattle illegally graze on federal land and then set fire to cover up the first crime, we shouldn't be supporting any of these people. The whole, whether they got a D by the name, an R by the name, they're black, they're white, or whatever. Kind of like what Sandhills had in his video earlier today. And I understand people have strong feelings, and some people are like, no, we got to back everything that's Republican or else. So no, this is one of the things I get in fights with people because I'll call out the people in our group on our side when I see people behaving in a way that I don't think represents us right.
As you should.
And I believe that if we police our own, we're going to do a lot better job than if we let the lefties police us. And I think every organization should police their own. And I think the people in Seattle, I think they got what they deserved because, I've never been to Seattle, but everything I've heard says they're all left-wing progressive. And on the other side of the mountains, the people are entirely different and all this other stuff. And for law enforcement to vacate that area and leave those people defenseless, and for those people not to stand up and defend themselves, you got what you deserved. But I don't think it's right, though, that 6 blocks of an area, law enforcement, EMT, firefighters can't go in there to deal with a situation. What if somebody has a heart attack? What if a building catches on fire? What if there is crime being committed? So taking over a 6-block area doesn't prove a point other than you're thugs, you're criminals, and nobody's going to listen to you.
Yep. I'd like to welcome Arlene Alvarez to the show. That's a new name that I've seen out in the chat. Welcome. Hope you like what you see. Please, if you have anything to say, don't hesitate to put it out there in the chat. As I've said several times tonight, this is a two-way conversation, and I welcome input from all parties, all viewpoints, as long as we are civil and not being deliberately trollish and insulting. Go right ahead. If you disagree, disagree. That's how we learn. You know, we talk to each other and come to examine our conclusions and maybe change our minds, maybe advance our thought, maybe learn something. So that's what this is about. Oh, Rob, thank you for coming back, because now I can start the show. Let's see, where am I at? Out here.
Can I chime in on this for a minute?
Go right ahead.
So, look, I've had discussions on Facebook with people, and I've given my thoughts to those people. They may not agree with it, with the post that I put on social media. Look, I will never trample anybody's right to protest, to willingly go out and, say this isn't right. But I don't agree with this. Once people start making demands and taking over pieces of territory and then claiming that it's not part of America anymore, that's disgusting. It's disgraceful. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the Yankee Marshal. I don't care if you're anybody. Anybody that comes into the United States of America and tries to claim territory, everybody would pitch a fit. They would. I don't care who they are. So don't give me this that, it's fine. It's all great, because it's not. You're declaring yourself a sovereign nation. From the signs you're putting up to the demands, you're demanding change. Well, I demand change too. But your demands are everybody gets a free house. Yeah. You know what? I don't know about you or anybody else that's out in the chat, because I can't see it because I'm on my phone. But I've worked my ass off for the things that I own. I've worked my ass off for the car that I drive. Nothing in life is free. And these kids, they have no idea. What, you want these kids to run the country you live in? So what, you can get everything free? Nothing in life is free. And how dare you occupy somebody's neighborhood? Imagine them coming into your neighborhood. How would you feel? It's all hunky-dory sitting on top of a hill looking down. But until it starts affecting you, your lifestyle, the way you go about your business on your daily life, it's fine because it's not affecting me. What about those people in those areas? And then they're not leaving. So what? This is going to turn into what, the Bundy Ranch, where somebody has to pull a trigger, and then everybody bounces. See, this is the thing about me. I've watched the internet. I've watched live streams, other people's live streams that have been down there for days. I've seen firearms in there. And what made me even sicker is people in the chat on these live streams that I watched said they're only doing their Second Amendment rights. So they're hijacking the Second Amendment so they can occupy stuff. When has anybody, any one of us, sat for days and occupied something for our gun rights? We show up to a rally, we sit on the steps. Some places you can't take a gun into the Capitol buildings, but we say our piece and we leave. This is insane. And people can call me a warmonger or whatever. I've never once said the military should go in there and serve it up. Never once. But when you start claiming that you're going to take a piece of territory away from the United States because your ass can't get a job, because you don't want to work, because you want to have, I'll use direct quotes from somebody, stinky sex in a park and get stoned. I'll tell you one thing, I will never, ever, ever have my kids sign their name on a dotted line like I and all my other friends have. during 9/11. I will never have my kids sign a dotted line for any one of those jackoffs that are down there in Seattle, occupying a space, disrupting everything. I don't mind that you protest. I don't care if you walk through the streets. But I start minding and I start getting angry when people are burning, looting, rioting, and occupying territory where nobody else can get on with their lives.
Yep.
I don't. We have sat here for weeks and listened to everybody's outpour. I don't agree with what happened to that gentleman one bit. I do not. But I think it's time for the protesting, the stupid occupation stuff that's going on over there in Seattle. That has to end, and now the talking has to begin. Yep. We've heard your cries. We've heard them. We've heard them for 2 weeks. And I'll be damned if you're going to take my federal tax dollars and go rebuild your community because you're so stupid that you burnt it down. I'll be damned if you're going to go use other people's tax money to go clean up paint.
You might be damned, but guess what's going to happen, Ro?
Yeah, and that's the sad thing about it. And all we're doing is going back. We're redesigning history to repeat itself over and over and over again by the defacing of statues. They're painting on the street. What is painting on the street actually going to get you? It's going to get you nowhere. Dialogue. Go vote. You know what? Even more important, go instead of burning down your community, go get active in your community. I don't know how many times I volunteered my time to go help out at a VFW. I taught classes for a whole summer down at the YMCA for baseball. I've given back to my community. People have fundraisers for the high school. I go and participate in those. Don't give me this. Don't give me this one bit that this occupation is going to change. What is it going to change? It's going to do nothing. It's going to change the lives of thousands of those people that live there, that can't go to work now, that have to clean up your bullshit, that have to sit there and listen to your stupid music and your poetry. Okay, fine. That's a good piece of protesting. But what, you're going to sit there and read poetry for the next nine weeks till the end of the year? Insane. And people can go off and say whatever they want about me, because guess what? When it comes to your town, when it sits on your doorstep, I'm going to turn my eye, just like I said about my children. When the country actually needs you, like we thought on 9/11, every one of my friends went up to that recruiter station, no matter what was wrong with them, and signed their name on the dotted line. When history repeats itself, because it's always we see it. Go watch LA 92 on Netflix right now. You'll see how far we have come as a nation, as a people. But I swear to God, I will never let my kids, I don't care how old they are, I'll lock them up in the basement. Never let them fight for this country. I had a friend that fought in Iraq and actually posted, she is shameful for fighting for this country, to see all the asinine shit that's going on that Americans are doing today. This is coming from a veteran. So put that in perspective. What you're going to call, you're going to call this person a wuss? Hey, last time I know, half the people that are talking about boogalooing and everything else in this world, they were never in the military. And I'll take another quote. They are wiping their Cheetos off their mouth because they've never put forth effort for this country. The hell with those people. The hell with that state of Washington. They've been going through stuff. We've been supporting them left and right. And what? Now we're going to divide ourselves over a bunch of stupid kids? Forget it. You know what? When you're having trouble in your state of Washington and you need help, you need me to send money, guess what? Guess what? Good luck. Good luck.
Wow, epic. Yeah. I can't refute any of that. Just like I can't refute Patriot in the Dark's statement a while back. He says, for the record, I hate all commies. Says they gave Rocky brain damage. Try to lighten things up a little bit there. because Roe went dark. Damn. Let's see. All the mayors and governors should all be arrested for allowing these cities to be destroyed by assholes. That's from Arlene Alvarez. Marne. Marn. I'm just gonna say Marn. So pardon me if that's not how you pronounce that. Antifa and people who think like them have never done any good for any society. In fact, I'm very sure people like this is the reason why Jesus died. Let's see. Freedom 357 says, which is a new name that I haven't seen before, so welcome. Says the left is really good at activism and organizing, not as crazy about the stuff they do that may be highly illegal, but they definitely are a lot more effective at it. And you're absolutely right with that. They are way more effective at organizing this stuff and getting their message out. Obviously, of course, they also have the help of the legacy media, but yeah. Guy that comments says Dorito dust is greater than Cheeto dust. I can't argue with that. Dorito dust is pretty damn awesome. So there's more to the CHAZ story here. This is from FoxNews.com by Vandana Rambaran. Seattle Autonomous Zone has armed guards, local businesses being threatened with extortion, police say. Seattle police say they've received reports of armed guards and potential extortion in a self-declared autonomous zone that spans several blocks and includes a now closed precinct. We've heard, anecdotally, reports of citizens and businesses being asked to pay a fee to operate within this area. This is the crime of extortion. If anyone has been subjected to this, we need them to call 911, Assistant Chief of Police Deanna Nolet said on Wednesday. Protesters calling to defund the police and make sweeping reforms to law enforcement tactics have declared a 6-block region spanning 13th Avenue past 11th Avenue near Cal Anderson Park and from East Olive Street to East Pike Street, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, CHAZ. The region encompasses the SPD's East Precinct, which was abandoned by cops on Monday following days of violent clashes between law enforcement and protesters in the wake of George Floyd's death, as well as parts of Capitol Hill. Officers retreated from the area in an effort to quell the violence, which included multiple shootings, one that was sparked after a man rammed his vehicle into a crowd of protesters. Police officers have deployed tear gas and pepper spray to disperse large groups of people. We wanted to be able to facilitate and support peaceful demonstrations, Nolet said. Demonstrations within the autonomous zone have been mostly peaceful, with no reports of violence, but police say armed guards have been surrounding the perimeter of the region, and residents who live within the boundaries are forced to show ID to prove you belong there, a law enforcement official told Fox News. This is a picture of the caption says, a volunteer worked security at an entrance to the so-called Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone on June 10th, 2020 in Seattle, Washington, from Getty Images. Speaking of and it shows a guy in a COVID mask with a beanie and wearing looks like a plate carrier and carrying an AR-15. Speaking on the condition of anonymity because they are not authorized to discuss the unfolding situation, the official told Fox News some people living in the area, which includes numerous bars, restaurants, businesses, and private residences, have been begging for help because they're not being allowed into their homes without ID. Police have been told to stay away from the region unless there is a call to 911 for help. The official also added that leaders in the anti-cop zone are starting to extort money from local businesses within the border for protection. Mackenzie Diamond, who lives in the autonomous zone, told Kiro 7 the experience has been a bit stressful. It's like checking in with somebody to get into your own home, Diamond told the news outlet, just making it so people can get into their buildings, keep the zone however they want, and move the fencing so people can go home. No one at these checkpoints has the legal authority to demand identification from anyone. We ask if anyone is subjected to these demands to call 911 and report the incident. While Washington is an open carry state, there is no legal right for those arms to be used to intimidate community members, she told Como News. Nolet also added that they are aware of threats to burn down the East Precinct, which she said would endanger residents, firefighters, and businesses. The police department is looking to start negotiations with the leaders of the protest movement to gain access to the police precinct, but are unsure of who is leading the demonstrations. It's just a matter of establishing this dialogue. We'd love nothing more than to be able to open our precinct buildings, Nolet said. What we want to do is give an opportunity for everyone's tempers to calm and for us to approach the table with a view towards equality. Supporters of the movement have posted photos on social media depicting a large but peaceful scene. Within the blockaded region, occupiers have set up tents, painted murals, and have music playing from speakers throughout the night. One resident in the area told police that there were tents lining my streets, barricades littered throughout the intersection by protesters, and civilians walking around with AR-15s, an official told Fox News, and the noise has not stopped. Seattle Fire Chief Harold Scoggins, whose firehouse is a few blocks from the region, has been one of the only city officials seen in the area working alongside demonstrators, according to Como News. Well, we got a team, we are working through this, and there is some trust built, and I don't want to compromise the trust, Scoggins told the news outlet. On Wednesday, President Trump demanded law and order in Seattle as the scene unfolded. Domestic terrorists have taken over Seattle, run by radical left Democrats, of course, he said on Twitter. Trump lambasted Democratic Governor Jay Inslee and Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan, urging them to take control of the situation. Radical left Governor Jay Inslee and the mayor of Seattle are being taunted and played at a level that our great country has never seen before. Take back your city now. If you don't do it, I will, Trump wrote. This is not a game. These ugly anarchists must be stooped immediately. Move fast. One of the perceived leaders in the movement, Raz Simone, tweeted a response to Trump on Wednesday decrying that he is not a terrorist warlord. The president really put a hit on my head. I'm not a terrorist warlord. Quit spreading that false narrative, Simone tweeted. The world has never been ready for a strong black man. We have been peaceful and nothing else. If I die, don't let it be in vain. Well, Mr. Simone, there are conflicting reports on that. This is a piece from BearingArms.com by Tom Knighton from June 11, 2020. Seattle Autonomous Zone has first case of police brutality. Warlord. Antifa goons managed to take control of about 6 blocks of Seattle real estate. They've declared it the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, or CHAZ, as we wrote about yesterday. As part of that process, the police pulled out of the area, leaving the area police station and leaving the neighborhood to the anarchists. Of course, there's been all kinds of hilarious issues within the CHAZ, such as the homeless they invited in having stolen all their food and ate it, leaving nothing for the CHAZ denizens to eat. But without any cops, there's no police brutality, right? You'd think, but you'd be wrong. Earlier today, Allah Pundit wrote about the so-called Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, CHAZ, which was set up in Seattle after police retreated from a few square blocks. The denizens of this new experiment in police-free living were probably envisioning a utopia full of peace and community love. Instead, they got a new self-appointed police force led by a rapper named Raz Simone. Early this morning, someone posted a video clip to Reddit which shows Simone and a group of people confronting a graffiti artist. Let's see what we can see. Let's see if we can see this clip. I haven't looked. Is there a... Dang it. I'm not seeing it. Yeah, I'm not seeing the clip. Maybe I got taken down. Or maybe I have to log in and I'm not logging in. So let's go back to the topic at hand. All right, to Reddit, which shows Simone and a group of people confronting a graffiti artist. Things escalate, and eventually the tagger is assaulted by someone in the group and has his phone taken away. The video is about an hour long, but here's a summary created by someone in the Reddit thread. Too long, didn't watch. Man was tagging over someone else's art. Raz and the group approached and separate him from the crowd, chasing him for 2 blocks. He begins to film them with his phone. They take it from him. He tries to get it back, and they attack him, kicking him in the head and breaking his glasses. At one point, Raz threatens to shoot the man. They then begin to gaslight him that it was all his fault. Audio only for most of the end because the woman in Raz's crew filming puts the phone in her pocket while the stream continues. So, just a couple of days into things and they already have a warlord. That's just special. Simone claims that everything got discussed and that all was well. He even claims the tagger's father wants Simone to mentor him. God help that kid. What happened, though, was predictable. When there's no government, all it takes is someone strong enough to step in and take control. That person often becomes something of a warlord, like Raz Simone. Oh, Simone can claim all was beautiful, but some of the highlights of the altercation included phrases like, "We are the police of this community now. We got to the point where addressing the point physically was the best way to get our point across." In response to the subject saying his glasses were broken during the assault, "Yeah, we should have broken your face." And "Don't be making no threats, nigga, well, I'll blow your brains out." Of course, the threat wasn't clear anywhere in the video. The transcriber believes it was in response to the tagger saying he wanted to leave within the next 15 minutes. Sorry, not a threat, just a statement. However, what we're seeing here will continue within the CHAZ. In fact, it will likely get worse. See, governments suck, but they exist because something will exist to govern a given group of people. Where people agree to select a leader, all is well. But when folks get in their head that they don't need one, someone will rise up. Usually the strongest will step in and take control. Or at least someone who isn't afraid to use violence to portray strength. You know, someone like Raz Simone. Either Simone will continue to enforce whatever rules he wants, or someone else will step in and try to stop him. Then, violence will follow. Either way, be glad you don't live in that part of Seattle. So what do you guys think of that? Do you think that that's a credible report? I mean, I wish that I could have gotten to the video, but although it appears to be over an hour long, so yeah, it would have been a too long didn't watch for me too. If any of you are on Reddit, try to track that down and watch it. See if you can see this video somewhere. Watch it for yourself. As I always say, don't take my word for anything. Follow back to the primary sources if you can, and find out what's going on for yourself. Let me look out in the Chatteroony.
So I saw a report from inside this zone. And the reporters were talking to some. Did we just lose budget?
What's
No.
that?
Oh, somebody dropped out. Thought it was you.
No, it looks like Pickle.
All right. So there was a report, some D-bag, and he was there saying how peaceful they are and how they're so welcome, and he's so glad they're there, and he's so glad the cops are gone. Right? Now, this could have been somebody they planted, just said, stand in this yard and we'll bring the reporters over here. This could have been the guy that lived there, and there's 30 angry guys standing behind the reporters going, yes, say what we want or else you're going to pay. He could have really genuinely been that person and really felt that way. It's really hard to say. Well, I've got enough critical thinking skills to be able to figure this out and go, we don't know. For all we know, he was the camera guy, or the gaffer or something. And they said, here, just stand here and look like you live here. So some of these reports could be true. They could be false. They could be exaggerated. You've just got to kind of weed through it and, try to make your best guess, I guess.
Freedom 357 makes a really good point. Says, hate to sound like a broken record, but a decision dilemma is one of the left activists' techniques. Here, Trump and other decision makers look bad, no matter what they do. They love to put their opponents in a lose-lose situation. No matter what you do, you're done. You're boned. Very astute observation. Now, midnight, I was quoting the guy, so don't go there. And I did not use the hard R.
First Amendment.
Patriot in the Dark rightly points out, I would be skeptical of anything coming from the media since we know their track record. Brett G says, good night. Well, good night, Brett. David Campbell says, media. Hey, Dave, glad to see you in here tonight. Says, media equals complicit.
Maybe look at the story, look at multiple sources, find the things that conflict, and then also look at what makes sense or what is plausible, even if it doesn't make sense. What's plausible?
Yeah.
Is it plausible that a bunch of thugs took over 6 blocks? Sure. Is it plausible that the police ran away like cowards? Sure. Is it plausible that the mayor supports these thugs? Sure. Is it plausible that some of the people who live there welcome them and some of the people are scared for their lives? Sure. I mean, this is all.
Other people are coming in, staying part of the night.
Stop and analyze it. They don't. They just skim the headlines.
Other people are coming in, staying part of the night. Other people are coming in late, staying the rest of the night. I don't think it's always the same.
I'm trying to get this next thing set up, and it's just acting. It's kind of delaying and whatnot before it does what I want it to. So I apologize for overrunning you with Yankee, because yeah. But now it should be all right. As you guys may know, I don't know how many of you pay attention to Yankee Marshal. But Yankee Marshal went to the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. It was last night or night before, and did a live stream from there. So we're going to watch little bits and pieces of it. We're absolutely not going to sit here and watch the whole thing, but I'm kind of going to skim through it so you guys can see a little bit of what he experienced there. And then we'll discuss what seems to be very contradictory sources here. Here, I'm going to drop the resolution on this so it loads quicker.
Trying to give everybody an idea of what's going on here. It's, nice out here, actually. It's a really nice night. There's doggies everywhere. Oh, my God, there's one that looks like turnip. There's puppies everywhere.
So if you can't see this, Yankee is basically showing a view of the streets just right in that area. A lot of people just walking around. A lot of people walking their dogs, just kind of hanging out and chilling. Let's move a little bit further. Now he goes further into the area.
The sidewalks are not blocked at all. But over here, if we go over here, you see that giant park over here? And it goes beyond what you can see right there. But they're counting that. That's all right. You can walk from me. That's all right. They are counting that as part of the area. See, the side streets don't really have nothing going on. They're blocked off right there. But businesses are open up and down the side streets. But counting that park makes up most of the space. Like right here is the end of this side of it. Let's walk all the way. Let's go over here. I'm going to look like an idiot talking to myself while I'm filming. But I won't be the only idiot here, and it's not the first time I've ever looked like an idiot. But that one I like. That one's pretty. But they're painting right here. And if you can see right down there where the painting ends, you can see traffic coming on down there, like oncoming traffic. That on there, that's just open street.
So he goes to walk further around the place and go
so
up
what kind
to
of
where
BS is this? Well, you've never been to a street party?
Or something.
That's what it seems like to me. Up here, we're all the way. Everyone's being very quiet and listening very intently. People's Community Clinic. I'll tell you, there's a lot of stuff going on here that would be like a libertarian wet dream.
I don't think so. With the people's this and the people's that all over, it's more a communist wet dream there, Yankee. Of course, trash is starting to stack up because city services aren't
it's piling up. But, right down there you can see traffic moving normally on that end down there. See, it's just that one main street and the little side streets off of it, which they block off those ends down there. The police, they block those off because they don't want people driving up this way and getting trapped. But these are the violent offenders that some people are wanting to send the military in to deal with. Basically, peaceful American citizens expressing their disappointment in their government through a little civil disobedience, and some people are wanting to storm the government in here or the army to do something. That would be one of the biggest travesties I've ever seen, and I'm pretty old. I just want to make sure we list one of our as the space. I don't think that was for me. But they won't be able to kill anybody and get away with it, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. Although with this crowd, you probably dump a few bodies and nobody would notice. I'm sure there's several people in the crowd if they disappeared. Wouldn't be a lot of people missing them.
Now he does keep saying that he
nowhere near the violent protests people are trying to portray this as.
But he didn't really elaborate on that.
Nothing like that yet. I did see some people that I thought looked pretty shady, and they looked like they were wearing black masks and sunglasses at night. And unless you're Corey Hart, you shouldn't be wearing your sunglasses at night. I got mine around my neck, but I'm not wearing them.
But he wanders around and
what gun are you?
Basically just looks
It's
like
going by too fast. There's too many people talking.
Some kind of hippie street fair. And from what I'm
they're
seeing,
probably all tourists like you. No, I think most of these are local.
He didn't walk up.
I've seen some people that more puppies.
Almost, I think that would have been one dude with an AR
Frenchie.
swung around his back.
Frenchie's got an attitude towards that other puppy there. Oh, look at you. Wash off. Fuck, I don't mind it anyway. I think I like it better than looking at a fucking gray sidewalk. Oh, another puppy.
Yeah, he kind of
nice time for the time, I guess. Oh, there's another puppy.
See?
There's another puppy. And he, or she, appears to be wearing a bandana. But it's, like I said, a lot of lesbians.
What did you just say? A lot of lesbians. One thing he does is he talks shit and roasts.
Yeah, someone says not much of a protest. It is a street fair. I do believe that is, says no video right there, so I'm not going to point it that way because it's a volunteer medics unit or medics unit. They don't, please.
So he talks shit about and roasts a lot of people.
Other people are coming in, staying part of the night. Other people are coming in late, staying the rest of the night. I don't think it's always the same people here because the crowd. I will try to call them back here in a little bit.
Matter of fact,
I'll in my live chat here in a little bit just so that I can. I'm going to sign off now. I might do a late night chat when I get back to the room. Better to be prepared, but I guess it's better to have downtown Seattle. In fact, I think it's scarier over here. There's less people than it is over there. But this is what's going on. I just wanted to let everyone stepping in the water. And a mime, I think. I think that was a mime. But I'm out of it now. Now it's just regular businesses and people wandering around on the street. There's like a 10 drum player going on down here. But that's pretty much it. So I'm going to sign off now. I might do a late night chat when I get back to the room, but I doubt it.
It looks like a hippie street fair, as one of the commenters said. So, I don't know. You have the news reports. You have the reports from people that live there. You have, other people saying one thing, and then Yankee's video kind of shows something else. Could it just be that the night he was there was hippie love fest? I don't know. I'm not saying that that's all that's happening. I'm not saying that the extortion and the Raz Simone threatening to blow that kid's brains out didn't happen. I'm just saying it seems to be very conflicting. What do you guys think?
I don't really consider the Yankee Marshal a credible source of information. Not to mention, he's one of them, so what does it really matter?
Well, yes, but, through the whole 20-minute video, if you sit and watch it, you don't see anything that's, other than the fact that they're there and they're defacing property and the vandalism and all that, from painting the sidewalks and the streets and the buildings and, the broken shit and the trash piling up and all that. But I'm talking about the general behavior. You're not seeing the type of thuggery that you would imagine from the articles that I read.
It's the same way I can take pictures from different angles, from different locations at different times of the day at the Washington, D.C. rally and then claim 2,500 people were there when there weren't. So, whatever.
Good point. What do you think, Ro?
Hey, man. First of all, I'd like to say thanks for going down there. I mean, I can't. I live on the other side of the country. If I lived closer, I'd go down there and peep it out. But then again, you got to look at it that there's no cops there. There's nobody saying that this is wrong. There's nobody standing up on the other side saying, get out of my town or get out of my city. There's nobody. The politicians have said, we're just going to let them do it. There's no resistance. There's nobody pushing back saying, all right, you guys made your point, now leave. Did you guys see anybody there? You see any cops there? You see the National Guard there? Do you see just normal citizens there? Like, get out of the area, okay? You proved your point. No, you don't. So guess what? It's going to be docile. It's just like when you roll into a town in the Middle East. It's fine and dandy until you show up there. And then I bet you all those people's attitudes change on a dime. Some of the videos that I watched the last few nights, there's people yelling, there's people screaming. They're doing their thing. But now they're all stoned. And now it's fun now. It's a big orgy. You know what I'm saying? But as soon as you stick some people in there to try and get them out of that spot, you're going to watch these people flip on a dime. Now, I heard reports, well, they're checking people, they're patting them down, blah, blah, blah. Something from Fox News or Tucker Carlson. I don't believe anything those people say. I take those people with a grain of salt. And I probably wouldn't even salt my food with what the media, puts out. But some of the stuff that I saw in the videos the last few nights, there's people yelling at each other. I watched a video where some guy had a bat in his hand yelling at this other guy for a stolen phone that he never even stole. So, I mean, go in there and do something stupid. Tell these people to leave, and you'll see the other side of humanity real quick. Again, I commend them for going down there. It doesn't look violent, but what? You're going to let these people sit there?
Yeah.
Give me a break, man. Give me a break. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy. You can read your poetry, but guess what? You can do that on 7 or 8 different days of the week. You can go and draw a canvas and go stick it in the art center that's probably somewhere down there. Don't give me that, man. Don't give me that these people.
Chuck the link out there in the chat. So, if you're interested in watching it, go ahead and watch it. If you're not, don't, hey, not my views. Yankee ain't paying me to promote it. So, there it is. I just figured I like to try to present as many sides as I can. It kind of goes back to let's bounce my assumptions and some new concepts off each other and see what comes out the other side of it. And that's what this is about. So that's why I presented Yankee's video there, because, it shows something completely different from what the articles I'm reading say. And, I think you need to have all the information you can get in order to make an informed decision on what you believe. So there you go. Yet the asshattery in Seattle doesn't end there, because with this lawlessness going on, according to the Washington Times, Seattle bans police officers from schools. By Sally Ho, the Associated Press, Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. Seattle. School leaders are booting officers off Seattle campuses for a year, while the district reevaluates its partnership with the police department. Seattle School District Superintendent Denise Junot shared the decision. Love it. Love it. Looks like they're getting the white circle of doom over there on the YouTube's side. I'm going to refresh my YouTube. Nope, there we go. Good. It's all back. Yay! So, yeah, I think that's a pretty stupid move on the school board's part in Seattle, but I don't live there, so I have no say. I almost got a spot in Moron of the Week this week because of that, but there are others who, believe it or not, are even more deserving. And we'll talk about them in a little bit. M. Gabriel says, help, us stuck in YouTubes. Chris Former says, I keep refreshing, but keep getting a circle of doom. Well, I got this thing, looks like it's working on my side. And I refreshed it. It looks like it's working for me. Let me do one thing that often, let me turn off my scroll. So I'm having a high CPU use right now, and my computer is not liking that. So let me turn that off. Turn that off. That might help a little bit. Oh, Pickle, it's all right. Pickle says he's sorry he had to jump out. Happens, brother. It's not a problem whatsoever. New York Outcast says it tweeted for a minute, but it's good now. David Campbell says it's working now. Good. Good. Glad to see that we're back. You know, hey, there's a reason that the very, very first thing you see when this show comes on is a nice little sign that says technical difficulties. It's kind of the thing around here, folks. If you're new to the show, technical difficulties is kind of an inside joke around here because every week something happens. It's not the right of the people unless there's a technical difficulty. So I just embrace it. It's something to be expected and rejoiced in. But Seattle isn't the only place experiencing problems around the country. As I'm sure anyone who's paid even the slightest amount of attention knows, there are other areas where all these things are happening, and some police departments are facing backlash from some social media posts. This is from Kent County I'm not sure where. This is from WOODTV.com. Wood TV 8, Grand Rapids, Holland, Kalamazoo.
Grand Rapids.
So this is up in your neck of the woods, Squib.
Mm-hmm.
Lowell PD chief ousted over controversial Facebook post. By Ken Kolker from June 5th, 2020. Updated June 5th. Lowell, Michigan. The Lowell police chief was forced to resign just days after a controversial Facebook post that supported 4 young men who had armed themselves against potential protesters. Chief Stephen Bucala was told to resign by 5 p.m. Thursday, or he would be fired at 5:01 p.m., according to documents obtained Friday by News 8. He resigned by email. I've decided it's time to start my life outside the Lowell Police Department, and my future looks very bright, he wrote. The Lowell Police Department on its Facebook page had posted earlier this week about the 4 men who'd armed themselves to patrol the city. We at the Lowell Police Department support the legally armed citizen and the Second Amendment, the chief wrote on the department's Facebook page. That bastard. How could he post something like that? That led to a flurry of comments between residents, with the chief defending the right to open carry. It also led City Manager Michael Burns to order the chief to remove that sentence in support of the 4 men. On his personal Facebook page, Bucala posted a photograph of the 4 armed men on Tuesday, 3 days after the Grand Rapids riot. Bucala wrote, "So these fine young men called me today. They wanted to exercise their Second Amendment rights and walk down Main Street. They saw what happened in Grand Rapids. They said it's not going to happen here. We have your backs. I thank them for letting me know they were in town and to call if they see something." And it shows a picture of those 4 dudes. The Lowell Police Department on Thursday apologized on its Facebook page for what it called an ill-considered message posted on the Lowell Police Department Facebook page. We then defended this message, arguing with residents or dismissing their concerns. We must take this opportunity to listen and learn so we can work together to defeat racism and build a more just and equitable society, it added. Says the actual tweet says, we have made mistakes on social media this week, starting with an ill-considered message posted on the Lowell Police Department Facebook page. We then defended this message, arguing with residents and dismissing their concerns. On behalf of the city and the police department, we apologize to our community for these mistakes. At a time when residents look to us for leadership, we failed. We must take this opportunity to listen and learn so we can work together to defeat racism, build a more just and equitable society. We can and must do better. The city manager cited Bucalo for violating city policy, including conduct unbecoming of a police officer and personnel shall not allow personal feelings to influence their professional conduct. Well, I would say then possibly the city manager should be fired for same. The post inserted political and debatable issues into a departmental notice which causes unneeded concern by some city residents, the city manager wrote. Your actions created an unnecessary negative portrayal of the city in some citizens' view. Bucalo could not be reached for comment. Tonya North, owner of North Star Antiques on Main Street in Lowell, defended the chief and was disappointed by his resignation. He was doing his job the best he could, North said. It's a right for people to bear those arms. If people have a problem with it, there's a different place you have to go for that. But she wondered why some of the men may have displayed Confederate flags on their Facebook pages. Do I think those young men should have been carrying that flag? No, because I think they're throwing gas on a fire, she said. Garrett Hardman, one of the 4 who patrolled the city while armed, told News 8 that what we were doing was lawful. I support the Second Amendment right. He also said the chief was wrongfully forced to resign. When asked about Confederate flags, he said, I don't recall. Bucalo had been with the city of Lowell since 1995 and was appointed chief in 2013. In 2017, Bucalo was charged with 5 counts of unauthorized use of LEAN, Law Enforcement Information Network, for using police computers for personal reasons. He pleaded guilty to willful neglect of duty by a public officer and was fined $1,000. Last year, he received a Medal of Valor for saving someone from drowning. And his career is gone, well, at least his job with that city, is gone because he supported the Second Amendment. Now, to be fair, I know better. For those who don't know, who are new to the show, have never watched any of this, don't know who Budget is, I am a juvenile correction officer in my day job. Well, evening job since I work afternoons, but you know what I mean. Anyhow, my professional life, I'm a juvenile correction officer. I'm a public employee. And I know better than to mix my personal opinions with any professional conduct. In other words, if I were to be acting in a professional capacity in any way, my personal opinions stay at home. They don't play into it. I don't mention Second Amendment politics. I don't mention politics, period, in any official capacity. Now, of course, you have discussions with somebody around the water cooler that you've known for years and you're working with. That's one thing. But if I'm interacting with the public in any way to represent my agency, political stuff stays completely, totally, and utterly out of it because that's not the place for it. Similarly speaking, I never mentioned the agency for which I work. I'm never on camera in a uniform. I'm never displayed our logo. Nothing. So, on the one hand, I can see there being some kind of disciplinary repercussion for doing so. However, I don't think calling for the man's resignation over that was appropriate. Not just calling for his resignation, but threatening to fire him if he didn't give the resignation for saying, I support lawfully armed citizens. I don't know. Where do you guys come down on this? Because to me, I can see both sides of this one.
What they did was 100% legal to do in this state. I don't think his statement was political or personal. I think it was something police need to do more of, and that's public relations. People don't trust cops. People don't like cops. People fear cops. If somebody wants to do something that is legal and the cops support it, that would be no different than if they were going to have a peaceful protest, okay, a peaceful candlelight vigil, whatever it was, and he put out a tweet or email or Facebook post or whatever saying that the police support their right to peaceably assemble. That would be the same thing. It's good public relations. We need more of that from law enforcement so people want to trust them, so people want to work with them, so people don't look at them the way they look at them. So if anything, the city government there did more to hurt public trust of law enforcement, public trust of the government in that suburb. And, you know, as far as the people who are afraid and all this other bull crap, it's not what you would think. In Michigan, I'm not saying everybody here carries a gun or has a gun or whatever. And there are lots of people here who have no idea it is legal to open carry. But this isn't really an anti-gun state. Now, that might have been I'm not familiar with that particular suburb of Grand Rapids. That one might have been a little bit more well-to-do. So you're going to have the snobby people there. But overall, though, people who believe in the Second Amendment in this state come from all walks of life. So if anything, it is something that brings people together instead of divides them. But if the city government wants to turn it into a personal and political issue, they just created division where there was none.
Yeah. And I will leave it at that from the man on the ground in Michigan. Let's see. I'm gonna cut this one for interest of time. Let's see. We are going to go with this next story. Cause the usual suspects are, they've decided to go by the old tactic of never letting a crisis go to waste. And they are calling for gun control as a result of George Floyd's death, despite the fact that a firearm wasn't used. This is from The Truth About Guns by Dan Zimmerman from June 11th. Washington Post. You can't improve police conduct without stricter gun control laws. Our friends in the anti-gun media know an opportunity when they see one. While the murder of George Floyd didn't involve a firearm in any way, shape, or form, the Washington Post's Robert Gebelhoff has engaged in a bit of pretzel-like logical contortion in order to argue that you can't expect to reform the nation's police forces without further restricting the gun rights of all American citizens. Reading his op-ed, you know what you're in for when he quickly whips out an old favorite of the civilian disarmament industry, claiming that America is in the midst of an epidemic of gun violence. We could fully fisk this load of equine fecal matter, but we've done it dozens of times. The inconvenient fact that Gebelhoff refuses to acknowledge is that America has been experiencing historically low violent crime rates at a time when the number of civilian-owned guns has never been higher. But then we get to the good part, so to speak. Police reform and gun reform go hand in hand. Reducing the easy availability of guns would not eliminate the problems with policing in America, nor end unwarranted killings, but it would help. Simply put, police are more likely to use lethal force when they believe lethal force might be used against them. We've seen the tragic results. Police fatally shooting scores of people, including children, because they mistake their toy guns for real weapons, or shooting an adult man because he's holding a cell phone, or a hammer, or a pipe, or a lighter. Well, I'm here to tell you, buddy, a hammer or a pipe is a damn deadly weapon. Got that? Gebelhoff points out that police sometimes kill innocent people because they mistake things in their hands for firearms. What's his solution? More stringent gun laws would also represent an important step to reduce police shootings and make communities safer overall. There are a number of remedies available, from mandating safe storage of firearms to requiring licenses for ownership, none of which criminals are going to follow, by the way, many of which states have already implemented that can reduce gun deaths without violating Second Amendment rights. Wrong. Shall not be infringed. Safe storage laws have literally nothing to do with police misbehavior or their mistakenly killing unarmed people. Not a single thing. As for gun licensure, not only is that a direct infringement on the right to keep and bear arms, but there is no other enumerated civil right, speech, voting, religious freedom that is subject to a government permission slip. Requiring a license to exercise your Second Amendment rights is both unconstitutional and abhorrent. To say nothing of the fact that having a gun license wouldn't reduce a single occurrence of police misbehavior or prevent the shooting of one unarmed individual. In a nation of over 400 million firearms, there is literally no way of keeping guns out of the hands of criminals and those who might present a reasonable threat to police officers. Crooks don't bother with niceties like gun permits, even in the few places that currently require them. Ask anyone at the NYPD. So requiring licenses will do nothing to alleviate a cop's fear that the thing in a perp's hand is a gun. Despite what you read in the media these days, the vast number of police officers in this country are good people doing their best job they can. The few bad actors like the Jerky McJerkfaces of the world, by the way, I don't say people's names when they do something horrible. They don't deserve to have their name remembered. Make all cops look bad. How would Robert Gebelhoff do something to reform policing? He wants to see overdue structural and cultural changes needed to excise the bad behavior in law enforcement. That should include the demilitarization of police, a greater investment in social services, and a national reconciliation effort in communities plagued with officer-involved violence. 1 out of 3 constitutes success in baseball, but if you want to positively affect the quality of policing in this country, that's a dismal batting average. Demilitarization would be a definite plus. The overuse of SWAT teams and the use of demobbed military gear by cops, I guess it's demobbed military gear by cops around the country, is a serious problem that increases the us versus them mindset among police forces and officers. But dumping even more taxpayer dollars into local social services, the federal government alone spent $361 billion in 2019, as well as setting up some kind of ill-defined airy-fairy national reconciliation effort, would no doubt have zero practical impact on the conduct of the average cop on the beat. If you really want to get bad cops off the streets and make all of them think first before they act, there are 2 surefire changes that need to be made. First, eliminate police unions that protect the jobs of bad cops like Jerky McJerkface. He's involved in 2 prior shootings, was the subject of 20 complaints, and received 2 letters of reprimand in his 19 years on the job. That's difficult, if not impossible, to fire problem cops until something like George Floyd happens. The second remedy for bad policing is the elimination of qualified immunity. That's the judiciary-created doctrine that protects government employees from being personally liable for constitutional violations. Violations like the use of excessive force. If police officers or their civilian superiors in the mayor's office were held personally liable for infringing on individual civil rights, there would be a lot less of that kind of conduct. Somehow, however, Mr. Gebelhoff didn't mention those solutions. Why? Did they just not occur to him? Some might say it's because they violate 2 dearly held features of government in this country that are jealously defended by liberals. Democrat vote-generating labor organizations combined with a lack of individual accountability. But we couldn't possibly comment. In any case, Gebelhoff's fatuous prescriptions for somehow improving police officer conduct by limiting the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding Americans are irrational, incoherent, and would be wholly ineffective. In other words, they're exactly what we've come to expect from a Washington Post columnist opining on the subject of gun rights. So yes, police are bad, so let's take everybody's guns. That makes sense to me. Does that make sense to you, roll call?
What can you do? I want an MRAP.
You want an MRAP? Well, you can have one. Just buy one.
Well, I want it like the weirdos in Seattle. I want it for free.
Oh, okay. Well, go downtown in what is it Michigan City you live in?
Yeah.
And seize a few blocks, and eventually they'll bring one to you. They'll bring it right to you.
Don't tempt me.
Notice I didn't say they'd give it to you. I just said they'd bring it to you. You might not like it when it finally gets there. Well, it's not all doom and gloom this week. We do have some good stuff. First up, dang it. No, I did not. No, I don't care about crossbreed holsters right now. Thank you, though. Anyhow, this is from The Truth About Guns by Dan Zimmerman, June 10th. Federal court rules Connecticut can't suspend gun permit processing during emergency. A win in Connecticut. U.S. District Court has issued a preliminary injunction blocking the Governor of Connecticut's executive order allowing the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection to suspend taking fingerprints necessary to purchase a firearm during the declared coronavirus emergency. Excuse me. See, amateur hour. Drinking carbonated beverages while I'm here talking to you guys. How disgusting. In Connecticut, you cannot acquire, possess, or carry a handgun without a state permit or certificate. To get a permit or certificate, you must go to the local police or the Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection to have an officer there collect your fingerprints for purposes of a criminal background check. You have to be fingerprinted in Connecticut to get a firearm? That's crazy. Under Connecticut law, employees for the local police and DESPP may not refuse to collect the fingerprints of a person who seeks to apply for a handgun permit or certificate. In light of the exigencies of the COVID-19 pandemic, however, the governor of Connecticut issued an executive order nearly 3 months ago that indefinitely suspends this law for so long as the COVID-19 emergency may continue. The executive order leaves it to the discretion of state and local police whether to conduct fingerprinting, thus empowering the police to functionally deny the right of new applicants to acquire, carry, and possess a handgun. Consistent with the governor's order, DESP and some unknown number of police departments have suspended all fingerprint collection activities that the law used to require them to do. The governor's executive order number 7E and the commissioner's implementation of the order plainly burden conduct protected by the Second Amendment. Because these actions result in the suspension of fingerprinting while not suspending the statutes that make fingerprinting necessary to issuance of a handgun permit or certificate, they categorically foreclose a person who does not already have a permit or certification from acquiring a handgun if the person's fingerprints are not already on file. One cannot exercise the right to possess a handgun in the home for self-defense if one is prevented from acquiring a handgun in the first place. Gee, I wonder if that was intentional. U.S. District Court opinion in Connecticut Citizens Defense League versus Lamont. They give in a link to it. So there you have it. Judge says, no, you can't do this. I wish the law would allow for a civil penalty to whatever politician decided that they were going to issue such a blatantly illegal order. But, no accountability. We can't have that. What do you guys think? Do you think these politicians should be accountable for the orders that they do that break the law? Or is this something that they should just be able to do and, well, if it doesn't stick, you know what, throw something else against the wall?
They've been doing it around the country.
Doing what?
I mean, look at it, man. My state, they quit processing permits. Everybody's mad. Then they just started back up again. Well, why did you stop in the first place? Well, we took everybody out of the office because of the Coco Uh-oh, which is another scam at this point. So, I mean,
the scamdemic?
Excuses. Yeah, the pandemic. I mean, excuses. But, when the common man uses an excuse, then, they want to hang us by our toes.
Patriot in the Dark makes the connection here. This is what I was going for. Says, isn't that also covered in what you were just talking about, the immunity to prosecution? Why, yes. Yes, it is. I am one that happens to believe that qualified immunity should not be applicable when the individual doing the action knows what they're doing is not acceptable and decide to do it anyway. I don't think qualified immunity should be applicable in that. And I say that as someone who enjoys a little bit of that protection themselves in their professional capacity. You know, if you break the law, you should be accountable for it. Period. I don't care who you are. No one's above the law, or no one should be above the law anyway. That includes me. Which is why budget don't break the law. Well, major ones. I do speed. I drive fast. I'm sorry. Bad. But you know. Let's see, where are we at? Oh, they're talking about wanting MRAPs and Abrams tanks to pick up groceries, and then that would be a hell of a sight at the grocery store, right? Yeah, I think the place would never be the same. In other news, there are yet more good things coming for some of us, especially us here in the wonderful Buckeye State. This is from bearingarms.com by Tom Knighton from June 10th. As Ohio House considers Stand Your Ground bill, critics call it racist. Of course they do. Stand Your Ground laws exist for one primary purpose. They make it so people won't be prosecuted for not running away from an attack. It's something that shouldn't be needed, but people can and have been prosecuted by people who weren't there in the moment, but seem to believe that fleeing was not only possible, but preferable. As a result, some people are downright terrified to defend any human life other than their own, and even then, they're concerned. Laws that not just eliminate that duty, but make it clear you have a right to hold your ground from an attacker, protect law-abiding citizens. Now, Ohio is considering such a bill, and surprise, surprise, it has the typically stupid criticisms. Legalized lynching, citizens' license to kill, codification of black men's deaths. These were just a few of the characterizations people offered to the Ohio House Criminal Justice Committee of a Stand Your Ground proposal that lawmakers reviewed Tuesday. Starting in the afternoon and continuing well into the evening, a steady stream of citizens implored lawmakers to nix the proposal. They said the bill is overly generous to people who shoot someone purportedly in self-defense and will establish further legal protections of racist killings. Stand Your Ground laws are associated with two high-profile deaths of black men by white killers. Jurors who acquitted George Zimmerman in the killing of Trayvon Martin discussed the law in making their decision. Also, prosecutors initially declined to charge two men in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, a black man, citing the legal concept. Trayvon Martin was killed because he was trying to bash George Zimmerman's head in with a freaking sidewalk. He was in the process of killing Zimmerman, so Zimmerman fired his gun and ended the attack. Look, I'm no George Zimmerman fan. He screwed up by the numbers, but he did defend his life. Further, it wasn't a Stand Your Ground case because Zimmerman had no opportunity to retreat from the attack, what with Martin literally on top of him at the time. Now, I'm not going to get into the Ahmaud Arbery because that case still hasn't played out yet. We don't know what the jury will find. However, Stand Your Ground laws are designed to only work when defending your own life from an actual attack. You don't get to gun someone down and then claim you were scared so you can get a pass. Hyperbolic comments like legalized lynching are predicated on the idea that the law works in ways it doesn't work. You know, it's like that line from a movie. You keep using that word, but I don't think it means what you think it means. Plus, all those calling those cases racist are forgetting how this same law can protect minorities who defend themselves from racist prosecution. Laws are only as good as their prosecution. If a prosecutor decides to only go after minorities who exercise their self-defense rights, you've got a problem, especially if he or she can somehow manipulate the facts to present a case where the retreat is possible. Stand Your Ground laws protect these people since this is a defense that can convince a jury that retreat wasn't required. Those laws don't work for black folks, someone might say. In fact, I've heard people say it before. To them, I ask them to present to me the section of the law that says it only applies to white people. I won't wait indefinitely, though, while you find it. That's because it's not there. So, yes, Ohio may be going towards stand your ground. I think it's great. We also have a bill that was advanced last night, as a matter of fact, through the Ohio, I think it was the House. It was the House, to remove our duty to notify law enforcement. As it stands in Ohio, when you're stopped for a law enforcement purpose, you have a duty as a concealed handgun licensee to inform the police officer that you are a licensee and that you do, in fact, have a weapon upon you if you do. If you don't have a weapon on you, you don't have to inform. And the law says that you have to do so in a reasonable time, I think is what it says. It's vague upon the timeline and the time limit that you have to do it. In the past, there have been people that have gotten in trouble for not, in a timely fashion, telling the police that they have a firearm on them if they're a licensee, even with the police not letting them get a word in edgewise to tell them. The case of the officer Daniel Harless in Canton being a prime example that happened several years ago. That's a shit show. If you guys want to Google that, Daniel Harless, Harless, I think. That video is crazy. Believe me, I'd have been talking about that for a long time if I was doing YouTube at that time. But anywho, things may be looking up for us here in the Buckeye State. Although compared to some, we already have it really good. I'm talking to you Californians and New Jerseyans and Marylanders and Californians and all them other places that are behind enemy lines. I'm sorry. Things are looking better here. Let me go out to the...
Indiana just extended our stand your ground laws. I think
Good.
one of the stipulations is if somebody comes in your house and they're trying to do harm and you shoot them, you can't be sued at all by the victim or their family.
Pickle says immunity should cover cops when they accidentally cause a non-life-threatening injury while saving a life. For example, hurting someone's arm while keeping a suicide jumper. Yeah, I agree. That should apply. But if they know that what they're doing is illegal and immoral and unconstitutional, and they do it anyway, they shouldn't get immunity. Illinoisans. Yeah, whatever they are. Yes, Ozzy. Bark at the moon, buddy. Let me look up. Let's see. What is next? Oh, there is one more thing we're going to talk about in our main portion of the chat tonight. And that is the fact that Freedom Week is being used as a defense in California. This is from ABC 30 Action News, abc30.com, by Brian Johnson from
Ready for your 30 seconds of fame?
2020. I do not want you to play. Shut up. I don't care. Shut up. Freedom Week used as defense for South Valley man facing gun magazine charges. Visalia, California, KFSN. There's a unique legal challenge to a serious charge in Tulare County that could have an impact on the enforcement of a gun law across the state. The Tulare County District Attorney's Office filed a felony charge against 27-year-old Feng Yang in March this year for violating the state's law on high-capacity ammunition magazines. That violation is in question in a case that could be precedent-setting. In January of this year, Tulare County Sheriff's deputies assisted with a parole search at a home. During the search, they found a 15-round gun magazine, considered a large-capacity magazine in California, in the bedroom of Feng Yang, the parolee's brother. Deputy Sheriff Matthew Williams spoke to Feng Yang that day. He said he had purchased them during Freedom Week. Since the year 2000 in California, it's been illegal to manufacture, import, sell, give, lend, buy, or receive magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition. But on March 29th of 2019, a U.S. District Court judge ruled that the ban on was unconstitutional and shouldn't be enforced. That launched a buying spree across California, with gun owners snatching up large-capacity magazines. About a week later, the same judge decided that the large-capacity magazine ban should continue to be enforced, as California's Attorney General took the case to the U.S. Court of Appeals. But the judge also said the law could not be enforced against those who had bought a high-capacity magazine during that 1 week gap. And that 1 week, called Freedom Week, is now the argument in defense of Yang. Prosecutors charged Yang with violating the magazine ban, a felony, which in and of itself is crazy as shit. A felony for having 5 more rounds than you're quote-unquote supposed to? That's ridiculous as all get out. But I digress. He left the injunction in place, defense attorney Eric Schweitzer said. It bars enforcement of Penal Code Section 32310 for persons like my client who obtained their magazines during Freedom Week. According to the stay order, individuals who acquired any large-capacity magazines between April 1st, 2019 and April 5th, 2019 are permitted to keep them during the appeal, the Office of the Attorney General said as part of a response to Action News. Schweitzer also argues that Yang doesn't need to prove when he purchased the magazine. The people of the state of California have the burden of proof. If they're going to charge you with committing a crime, I think it's incumbent on them to prove that it happened some other time than Freedom Week, said Schweitzer. On Wednesday, Schweitzer requested the case against his client be dismissed. Despite his argument that Yang bought the magazine legally during Freedom Week, a Tulare County judge ruled the case should move forward. Yang will be back in court later this month and remains out of custody. I hope Mr. Yang gets off scot-free. Number one, because that law is unjust, unconstitutional, and a complete load of bullshit. Number two, his attorney is correct, in my opinion. Now, understand, I'm not an attorney. That's my brother, not me. I'm just as I say, a fat loudmouth with a camera and a microphone. That being said, my understanding is that the burden of proof in criminal trials is on the state. It is on the prosecution. They would have to prove that this man didn't buy that magazine during Freedom Week. And about the only way they'd be able to prove that is if it were a magazine that didn't exist before Freedom Week. So, other than that, I think this case should be thrown out just based on that alone. What do you guys think?
California stinks.
Guy that comments says, my magazines identify as time-traveling magazines. Calaveras 32 Special says, California purchased so many mags that week, the rest of the U.S. had a hard time getting them. So true. Chris Fulmer says, Owl and Anchor sells a patch to commemorate that Freedom Week. Good for them. Good for them. I'm all for a small business making a buck off of something. Go right at it. No, kitty cat, you are not coming up here. No, I said no, sir. You are not coming up here. Stop. I said no. Sorry. And apparently what I say doesn't mean squat. So, yeah. So the magazine ban in California is just utter and abject stupidity. Speaking of utter and abject stupidity. And now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week. Our first contestant in Moron of the Week. This is a piece from The Truth About Guns by Dan Zimmerman, June 8th, 2020. Minneapolis City Council President. Calling the police for a burglary is exercising privilege. Minneapolis City Council President Lisa Bender appeared on CNN this morning to discuss the council's plan to dismantle the city's police department in the wake of the George Floyd killing. What, you may ask, will replace the MPD? According to Bender, they will construct a transformative new model of public safety. Exactly what that means yet isn't clear. What was notable about Bender's comments, though, was her response when CNN talking head Allison Camerata asked her what a citizen should do if someone breaks into their home in the middle of the night. Who should they call for help once the local cop shop has been repurposed as a social justice encounter space, or something similar? Here's Bender's answer. Yes, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors, and I know, and myself too, and I know that it comes from a place of privilege. Because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality where calling the police may mean more harm is done. Listen for yourself.
We have a state action against our police department, which gives us legal mechanisms in the very short term. There's lessons from all over the country, all over the world that we're looking to take immediate steps while we work toward building the systems that we would need to imagine that future.
Do you understand that the word dismantle or police free also makes some people nervous? For instance, what if in the middle of the night my home is broken into? Who do I call?
Yes, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that comes from a place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality where calling the police may mean more harm is done. And
So, don't trust my words, trust hers, right? In Bender's calculation, all police need to go because some of them are bad actors. No one should benefit from law enforcement services when those who run the city can't manage to provide them effectively or equally to everyone. If the city council makes good on their threat, crossed out, promise to get rid of its police force, residents who hear a bump in the night will be left to deal with the problem themselves. No more of these ostentatious displays of privilege like dialing 911. Minneapolitans better make sure they're tooled up and able to defend themselves from home invaders and other criminals. The old maxim, when seconds count, police are just minutes away, will be completely out the window because no one will be coming to help. So there is our first contestant, the Minneapolis City Council president. She earned herself a spot on Moron of the Week. Our next bunch of mental giants is the Minneapolis City Council. This is from Concealed Nation. Breaking: Minneapolis City Council votes to disband police department. Published 6/7/2020. Minneapolis, Minnesota. In a veto-proof move, the City Council in Minneapolis has voted to disband the city's police department following the death of George Floyd at the hands of an officer and following protests and violent riots. Many activists have been pushing at least for their cities to defund local police departments, a move many other analysts considered unrealistic. The measure has been the main focus for many people protesting against police brutality. A city council member spoke at a protest at Powderhorn Park, a neighborhood in Minneapolis. This number of supporters in attendance represented a veto-proof majority to push the measure through, Fox 9 reported. Our commitment is to end our city's toxic relationship with the Minneapolis Police Department, Council President Lisa Bender said. It is clear that our system of policing is not keeping our community safe. Our efforts at incremental reform have failed, period. The council's goal is to now disband the police department, although the plan to do so wasn't immediately clear. It's also unknown how a police-free city would fare against crime and what elements would be implemented when the police are no longer there. The defund, I think is what they mean, police movement has been gaining steam over the last week, and it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. Does this mean that people for gun control are no longer in support of gun control? Asking for a friend. So along with the Minneapolis Council president, there is the entire Minneapolis City Council. But wait, there's more. Because quite literally, hey, Fuds, they're coming for your guns. For real. From Fox 4, fox4kc.com by Daisy Ruth and Nextstar Media. June 8th, 2020. Elmer Fudd to no longer have rifle in new Looney Tunes cartoons. Didn't he have a shotgun? I always thought that was a shotgun and not a rifle. Anyhow, Tampa, Florida. Elmer Fudd will no longer carry a rifle in HBO Max's collection of shorts called Looney Tunes Cartoons. According to the New York Times, the first short, titled Dynamite Dance, has the feel of old-school Looney Tunes. In the video, Bugs Bunny goes after Elmer with dynamite. However, Fudd will no longer carry his token rifle, and character Yosemite Sam will no longer carry pistols. We're not doing guns, series executive producer Peter Braungart told the New York Times. News of the change to the character went viral on social media Sunday. Braungart told the New York Times that cartoony violence, such as explosive TNT, will be done, as it was kind of grandfathered in to Looney Tunes. So, it's okay for Elmer, by the way, to go after Bugs with a scythe, and it's okay for Bugs to blow the ever-loving garbage out of Elmer, but, guns are bad, okay? So we can't have guns. But explosives and sharp stuff, that's great. Yeah, go ahead and play with that, kids, okay? So HBO Max has a spot, and so does Roseanne's former boy toy, Tom Arnold. From MomAtArms.com by William Shanahan. Whack job every Tom Brady campaign ally Tom Arnold wants a civil war. This guy is too wacky. Covered in our previous write-up, we show his call for liberals to steal or borrow their dad's guns to fight racists and his connections to gun control groups. Now he clarifies what he meant. And looks like a tweet by Lauren Boebert for Congress. So, is anyone going to mention the fact that Tom Arnold basically called for the start of a civil war? Tom Arnold says, I did, but your side was too afraid to show up. They thought I was going to take away their guns. Water Jabbers says, Twitter is the only place where you can find an F-list celebrity calling a lawyer and extremely knowledgeable individual like Mr. Colion Noir a knucklehead. Tom, that knucklehead has forgotten more about guns than you've learned about comedy. Get real, man. Tom Arnold says, so many questions about this knucklehead, but I think he's saying out of food, so he's feeding his kids guns, bro. No one cares about his stupid guns or gun knowledge, or that he has a micro penis except him, because he thinks he can distract everyone away from his micro penis with his guns. I gotta wonder why you're so worried about Colion Noir's penis there, Tom. Maybe all them years with Roseanne. Well, never mind. Anyhow, did you really just tweet this? This is from Colion Noir. Says, did you really just tweet this? Tom, you're nearly twice my age. This is how a 15-year-old playing Call of Duty tweets. It's pathetic. You also just exposed that you don't give a damn about black gun ownership beyond grandstanding on your white savior complex. Grow up. Tom, considering you're attempting to get people to rise up with Dad's hunting rifle to protect African Americans, supposedly, why are you attacking Colion? So, yes, Tom Arnold is another contestant on Moron of the Week. And then, of course, last but most certainly not least, Joe Biden, just for being Joe Biden. Dragged HC points out that I have 6.66K subscribers. I might be a demon. That could be. That could be. I might be. I wouldn't put it past me. I'm that kind of guy. If you asked some of the juvenile delinquents at work, they would probably agree with you. Anyhow, here we have our contestants: Joe Biden, the Minneapolis Council president, entire Minneapolis Council, HBO Max, and Tom Arnold. Squib, take it away. Who deserves the Moron of the Week the most?
I'm not sure. 1 and 2 are kind of in the same. The whole cartoon thing is more the PC thing. Tom Arnold's just another celebrity that's an idiot. I'll pick Biden.
Biden, Uncle Touchy gets his first vote. Roll call. Who's the biggest idiot this week?
I'm gonna pick number one.
Joe Biden. Or are you talking to Minneapolis Council Pres? Because I did talk about her first.
The Minneapolis people.
Minneapolis Council President. All right, folks, those of you out there in the chat who've never seen this, or maybe have never stuck around to this or whatnot, this is where you get to decide the fates of those contestants in the Moron of the Week and tell me who wins. Go ahead out there. We got 24 watching. Let's see some votes. Who deserves the title of Moron of the Week this week? Joe Biden, just for being Joe Biden. The Minneapolis Council President for her calling the cops is privilege. The entire Minneapolis City Council for voting to defund their police department. HBO Max for robbing Elmer Fudd of his gun. And Tom Arnold just for being a probably drunken, possibly high, definite jackass. Go ahead and vote now. Ozzy Osbourne says Council President. So we got 2 for Council President, 1 for Uncle Touchy. Calaveras 32 Special says the Council President. Joshua Prince says the entire City Council. So we got 3 for Prez, 1 for the entire council, 1 for Joe Biden. Guy that comments, Fudd or Arnold? Well, pick one, dude. Scott P79 says the entire Minneapolis City Council. Chris Fulmer says, I'm voting HBO Max because they're trying to screw with my childhood. Damn right. Talk about some revisionist history here, right? Guns are bad, okay? But you can play with dynamite. That's all right, yeah. What do we have out there? 23 people. Someone left. Oh, someone came back. Woohoo! Who deserves to be Moron of the Week? Joe Biden, Minneapolis Council Pres, entire Minneapolis Council, HBO Max, or Tom Arnold? Right now, we got the Minneapolis Council Pres winning by 1. M. Gabriel makes it a tie for the council and the president. So somebody come in here and Arlene Alvarez says Tom Arnold is and always will be a moron. So I'm going to go ahead and count that as a vote for Tom Arnold. Green Badger Outdoors says the city council. Gabe Stark says council president. New York Outcast says HBO. Pink Panther says Arnold's always been a moron. He married Roseanne. I'll go with HBO. So right now we're at 1 for Uncle Touchy, Joe Biden. 4 for Minneapolis Council Pres. 4 for the entire city council. HBO Max has 3, and Tom Arnold is back with Joe Biden with 1 each. Yeah, no. Chris Fulmer says, I think Budget should do the whole episode next week in that cartoon voice. Yeah, no. I don't think I could stand to do it for that long, man. I can barely stand to do it in my own voice. Sometimes I leave here and my voice is killing me, man. To be Mr. Mackey the entire time? No way. My cat's pissed at me because he's under my table at my feet, and every time I move, I kick him. He's just giving me the stink eye. All right, so what do we got here, folks? We got 4 and 4 for Minneapolis Council President and the entire Minneapolis Council. Let me get one more to break a tie somewhere. Or, well, not even necessarily break a tie, but let me have something. Because otherwise, I'm going to have to cast a vote, and damn, I don't necessarily want to. I don't know who to pick. Between the two of them, that's bad. I'm wondering, in cases like this, when I have multiples, maybe I should do this as a bracket. That might be a good idea. What do you guys think? Should I do it as a bracket sometimes? When I have a lot of contenders here? Bueller. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it, and I'm going to call it for... Yes, Scott P79, the entire Minneapolis City Council would include the president, so she's a winner regardless. And that's who I'm going to vote for, is the entire Minneapolis City Council for their defund the police, which by extension includes the president. So she's a moron twice over. And the entire Minneapolis City Council, you have the dubious distinction of being the moron of the week for June 12th, 2020.
And there we had another tale of stupidity in this week's episode of Moron of the Week.
And here we go, folks. This journey is almost over. This dumpster fire is burning down to embers. But we have one more segment left. It is Roll Call 219's favorite segment, Self-Defense Shoutouts. For those of you who are... I love that little cheer. For those of you who are new to the show or who have never stuck around to the end, Self-Defense Shoutouts are not where I'm reveling in the proposition that the bad guy has won the room temperature challenge by taking a dirt nap. It is where I'm reveling in the proposition that the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to keep the bad guy from making him take the dirt nap. Up first, but in no particular order, this is from WJACTV.com. Burglary suspect shot, killed by homeowner during home invasion, coroner says. Scalp Level, Pennsylvania. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not messing around in a town named Scalp. Scalp Level, PA. A Cambria County woman shot and killed a man who broke into her home Sunday night, according to County Coroner Jeff Lees. Lees says the home invasion happened just before midnight when 45-year-old Thomas Deal entered the home in the 1100 block of 2nd Street in Scalp Level Borough. He says Deal broke into the basement of the home and was walking up the basement steps when he was confronted by the homeowner. According to Lees, the woman told Deal to stop twice, and when he refused, she shot him in the head. Windber Police and Cambria County District Attorney's Office assisted in the case. Cambria County District Attorney Greg Neugebauer says his office is treating the case as justified use of force. Several communications were made to the individual to leave. The individual kept proceeding toward the homeowner, and the homeowner took action to protect herself as she deemed appropriate. Neugebauer added, he referenced the Pennsylvania law, commonly called the Castle Doctrine, that allows a person to use force to protect themselves in their home, vehicle, or business if they have a reasonable fear of being harmed. Neugebauer says the incident was a random encounter and Deal did not know the owners of the home. Windber Police Chief Andy Freer added that there were 3 other people in the home during the time of the incident, and there were no other weapons found at the scene. Next up, another case where a homeowner fatally shoots an intruder. KRCGTV.com. Man identified in fatal home invasion, arrested for second-degree murder of accomplice. KRGB web staff, Thursday, June 11, 2020. Columbia. Columbia police say one person is dead and another is being treated for a gunshot wound after a reported burglary Wednesday night. Police were called to the 6000 block of Bent Path Drive at 9 o'clock p.m. for a report of an armed resident confronting 2 intruders in his home. The resident told police he saw 2 intruders trying to make entry into his home and fired several shots at them. Upon arrival, officers canvassed the area, saw evidence of gunfire, damage to a residence, and 2 people with gunshot wounds. One of the intruders, Darian J. Logan, 27, of Columbia, was dead, and the other intruder, Fabian D. Goldman, 28, of Columbia, was transported by ambulance to a local hospital to treat a non-life-threatening gunshot wound. On Thursday, the Columbia Police Department said Fabian has been medically released and was arrested, then taken into custody for second-degree murder and first-degree burglary. He has been remanded in the custody of Boone County Jail. According to CPD, because Goldman and Logan were in the process of committing a felony and Logan was killed, Goldman has been charged with second-degree murder. The Columbia Police Department asks for anyone with information about this incident to call them. Next up, from Bearing Arms by Tom Knighton from June 9th, armed citizen defends family from dog, because the Second Amendment isn't just about defending yourself from the government. It isn't just about defending yourself from other people. It's about defending yourself, period. When the topic of guns being used for self-defense comes up, many anti-gunners like to cite how many people are killed in self-defense as evidence that such claims are bogus. However, that metric is a poor statistic to use because self-defense doesn't necessarily mean killing someone. Simply presenting a gun against an attacker can scare many of them off. Still, others run after the first shot is fired, regardless of whether they're hit or not. Meanwhile, some are shot and don't die from the wound. None of them will show up in any such statistics, yet all were thwarted by an armed citizen. Here's another example of a defensive gun use you won't see reflected in the self-defense homicide statistics. A man recently shot and killed a dog on West Jackson after seeing the dog act aggressively towards family members. Deputies with the Jackson County Sheriff's Office were called for the incident on Duck Road. A man shot a dog twice after the dog was seen behaving aggressively at a family member's house. The dog reportedly growled at a woman and her son and approached them aggressively. Aggressive dogs aren't calculated in most crime statistics, yet dogs can be incredibly dangerous to humans. While most dogs are great pets, some aren't. Those that aren't can be particularly threatening. Yet dogs aren't the only threatening animals you're likely to encounter. Depending on where you are, there's any number of animals that may threaten you or a loved one. Here in my neck of the woods, we've got coyotes, bobcats, and venomous snakes that may well pose a risk to human life, though bobcats aren't usually a threat in most circumstances. Using a gun against those won't show up in most statistics. The thing is, though, all those are still valid defensive gun uses. What else are people expected to carry that would let them defend themselves from these kinds of animal attack? Using a firearm defensively can well mean taking out a dangerous animal before it hurts a person. We, as a species, have always valued human life more than animals, and for good reason. This is just what we do and how we protect our species. Anti-gunners, however, ignore these incidents. Arguably, they know about them and opt to ignore them because it doesn't advance their narrative. Personally, I think it's more from a place of ignorance. They don't think about these kinds of gun uses because many of them live in places where they simply don't happen. I mean, how many coyote attacks took place in Chicago last year? Regardless, animal attacks are a thing, and using a gun to defend a human life from such an attack is a noble act. People deserve the right to defend themselves from predators, and not just the two-legged variety. Look, I'm an animal lover myself. The idea of having to kill a dog is something I prefer not to think about. But if it came down to either doing that or allowing an innocent person to be attacked, I'd much rather have the means to put the dog down than to be powerless to help. And I have to agree with him. And last, but most certainly not least, from cron.com by Jay Jordan, from Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. Boyfriend shoots woman's ex who kicked down apartment door in Southeast Houston. An apparently jilted ex-lover was shot after he kicked down an apartment door belonging to his ex-girlfriend early Wednesday, police say. Police then charged the man who was shot, identified as 48-year-old Orion Anders, with burglary of a habitation. He remains in the hospital as of Wednesday afternoon. Anders showed up to his ex's apartment in the 2700 block of Oak Cliff around 12:30 a.m. and allegedly barged into the home, according to Houston Police Department Lieutenant Larry Croson. His ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend was also inside the apartment when the man broke in, Croson said. At some point, Anders started attacking the new boyfriend, who pulled a gun and shot the intruder in fear for his safety, Croson said. Anders was rushed to a nearby hospital where he is expected to survive. Police detained the woman and gunman, who were both questioned about what happened. The boyfriend who shot Anders was not charged. And I say good for him. You have the right to defend yourself against attack when you are in fear of death or imminent severe bodily injury. And I think that's how it should be all across the fruited plain, although I know that in some jurisdictions, they don't really want you to be able to. And on that note, it's time to roll up the awnings and fold up the sidewalks and put everything away. I would like to thank my esteemed panel for stopping by. Had to duck out earlier, but Calaveras 32 Special, the Tactical Pickle himself, thank you for coming by. Speaking of thank you for coming by, Squidload, is there anything you would like to leave us with? Any thoughts that you would like to plant in people's minds here tonight?
Meh.
Meh. Well, there you have it, folks. Meh. Be ambivalent. It's good enough for Squib. The irascible yet ambivalent Squibload. Roll call 219. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with? Where can people find your content, sir?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Budget. Good show, like always. You can find me on YouTube at Roll Call 219. I'm on Instagram at Roll Call 219. And I'm also on Twitter where I tweet politicians and tell them that we're still watching them and maybe an insult here and there. So you can find me in these little spots, these little nuggets of the
Has Elizabeth
corners of the
Warren filed a
internet.
restraining order against you yet?
No. I quit following her because she's irrelevant in this universe right now.
Okay.
But whenever she pops her ugly head up, I will be there. But I'm going to drop out. I got to go to work tomorrow. I got to sell freedom. Everybody
All
on
right,
the
man.
chat.
Thanks for coming by, Ro.
No problem. Everybody in the chat, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share your favorite gun content all over the interwebs. Like always, I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Later, Ro.
Later, buddy.
Bye, Squib. Bye, Squibby.
Bye, Squib.
And speaking of thanks, I am absolutely grateful for all of you out there in the chat. As always, I am humbled and amazed that you've chosen to spend this time listening to me and Squib and Roll Call Talk. We started this thing at 11:30, and it is now 1:44 a.m. on the East Coast. I can't believe some of you have been here from the start to the end. You are why I do this. I don't make any money off of these because, well, ad restriction. Who would have thought? But the fact that you guys are here every week and you want to consume this content, you want to be part of, not just consume the content, you want to help create this content. You want to be part of the conversation. You want to be engaged in what I'm doing. I can't say how much that means to me. It also means a lot to me for you to make sure that you let your Congress critters and elected representatives know what you think. Send them snail mail, email, telephone, telegraph, carrier pigeon, smoke signals, semaphore, heliograph, drum signals, bicycle messengers, runners. Do whatever you have to do to let them know what you think and never, ever, ever give up the fight. I'll see you guys on the next one.